Perspective Shift is brought to you by fdailycoaching.com. If you're seeking assistance to help navigate you through a difficult time or feel challenged to reach your full potential, Frank Daly can guide you to a perspective that will allow you to utilize your imagination and experience a more fulfilling and satisfying life. Frank has been working with people for over 20 years as a coach, helping them understand the power they have to transform their lives.
All right, Renee, welcome to Perspective Shift. We are glad to have you today.
Welcome, Renee.
I'm excited to be here.
So let's why don't you give us a background on where you're from, like where you came from, and so like what was your childhood like, and what led you to this place here, to where we're sitting in front of you having this beautiful conversation about perspective.
And real quick, it's Renee Christian, correct?
Yes, it's Renee Christian.
All right.
Okay, perfect. So just for those at home listening, Renee is a coach on multiple levels. That's the reason we brought her on. She's a transformational coach, a life coach, and a health coach as well. And these are all aspects that she's been certified, and she's got a great story to share with all of us. So welcome, Renee. We're excited to have you on. Why don't you jump in and give us a background on where you're coming from?
So, I in New York, but I was diagnosed with a disability at about 6 months old. It's called cerebral palsy. For people that don't know what that is, it's basically a lack of oxygen to your brain before or after birth, and depending on where you lose oxygen, depends on how it impacts your muscle control and your nerve control in your body.
Okay.
So for me, I have to use a wheelchair and things like that every day. So that created a couple of different dynamics within my life that made me feel broken and not good enough, and to question, my worthiness of existence, as well as some trauma that happened throughout my childhood with my family. And when I had my daughter at about 22, 23 years old, I remember holding her for the first time and looking at her and just realizing how much I kind of didn't like myself, and I kind of hated myself, to be honest with you. And I didn't want to pass that to her. I didn't want that to be a generational thing that she had to deal with later. So that kind of triggered my desire to heal and to uncover the reasons why I felt that way about myself. I suffered from depression, anxiety a lot of the time, things like that. So that's when I went to school to become a life coach and to get my master's in coaching. And it really helped me to question myself and learn about myself, and to uncover things about myself where I realized that I was living a life for everybody else. I was making decisions in my life because I felt like that was what people wanted me to do and expected me to do. And that's what I was required to do. But when I started to release all those things and actually make decisions for myself and for what I wanted and what felt more aligned to who I wanted to be, that's when I started to take my power back. And then I started to learn about how our perspective and our view on life shapes our reality and pulls things into our life. And I empowered that in myself, and I took accountability for that, because I feel like a lot of times it's easier for us to say we can take accountability for the good things that happen. You can say, oh, I manifested that new job, or oh, I created that new car. But we don't like to take accountability for the things in our life that we manifest that ain't what we like, right?
Well said.
So we manifest not great relationship, we don't want to say that we did that. We want to say that somebody did it to us. It's putting the blame outside of us instead of like saying, you know what, because of the way I felt about myself, I did create that, and I'm gonna take responsibility for that and own that, and then realize how you can empower yourself to change it. Because if you have the power to create it, you have the power to change it. And being authentic in that is something that's really important to me, because I think that a lot of people have this idealized version of themselves that they think they have to get to. And what I do is like, I try to empower people to realize that they're already there. You're already there. You're just not giving yourself permission to accept it, because there's something that you believe about yourself that you're not worthy of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, absolutely.
Hey, Renee, do you remember like when the first time you realized that you were different than the rest of your family or people around you? At what age was that?
I think I was much older. I think it didn't quite hit me. I think it hit me a little bit here and there throughout my life, but I don't think it really hit me that everybody else saw me differently until it was like 13, 14.
Okay.
But for me, I just felt like I was me. But when it hit me, it was a very like traumatizing realization that people didn't understand me, and they didn't want to like kind of deal with what the extra help I needed, right? And that had created some belief systems around being a burden to people. Part of my story is that I went into the system around that age, and when you're in the foster care system and the state system of like group homes, nursing homes, things like that, because they couldn't actually find a foster home for me, so they actually put me in a nursing home, which is a really interesting part of my story, because 13 growing up in a nursing home, it's not normal per se.
Yeah.
But when that happened, I literally had a caseworker look at me and say, like, nobody wants you. And the impact that had on me followed me for years throughout my life. And I'm still working through some of that to this day. But I'm okay with it now because I recognize it. And I'm able to honor it if it shows up and release it when I need to. And that's what I teach people. It's like, it's okay. It's not always gonna all be gone in a moment. It can sometimes take time to release the bigger things. Yeah. And that's okay.
So the catalyst for your awakening and becoming kind of aware of this awareness, if you will, or that you are the observer, would you say this was when you had your daughter at 23? Was this the first time you kind of woke up to that, or did this happen earlier in life, Renee?
I was aware that I wanted to grow and change. Until I had my daughter, I wasn't willing to really face it. Like, I was aware of it, but I didn't want to face it. So when I held my daughter for the first time, like, I always have been a fighter. So I always felt like I had to fight for myself, advocate for myself, and I would tell people off all the time. Like, even young, I would just tell them, I would be like, I don't care what you say, I'm doing what I want to do anyway. But It wasn't from a place of like awareness. It was a place of like, that's how I knew to survive.
Protection, right? Like a protective mechanism.
So that was like a place of survival. Whereas when I held my daughter for the first time, I didn't want to be in survival anymore. I wanted to do it from a place of being confident and healed. So there's a different energy there, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So your daughter was a great gift in multiple ways.
Oh yeah.
Bringing new life into the world, but also waking you up to this. This has got to stop.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And it showed me that I I do have the ability to decide what happens in my life because I have multiple people. Like my daughter was a complete shock because I was told like all my life that I couldn't have children.
Okay.
Like people just assumed that because of my disability, like I couldn't have children. So I was just like, okay, I can't have children, so it doesn't matter. Like nothing's gonna happen, and doing what I was doing. And all of a sudden, like my ex, like he comes to me and he goes, "You're pregnant," and like it is like he literally spoke it into existence. Like and seeing that, like knowing what I know now, like I could see that, but I didn't know it then. But he was like, "You're pregnant, and I know it, and you can't tell me otherwise." And I'm like, "Well, these 10 doctors said that can never happen, so I don't believe you." And we got into this big fight about it. And then he's like, "Well, just take the test." And I literally took the test. And in 5 minutes, that thing came back positive. And I was like, "What the heck happened?" You
Yeah.
know, like because I
Yeah.
was like shocked. You know,
Right.
and
Especially with 10 doctors telling you it's not possible.
right. And so like when I went, even when I went to like go confirm my pregnancy, they looked at me like I was nuts. Like they looked at me like there is no way this is possible. Like how is this possible? And then there was other things where they made me feel like I couldn't be a good mother and all this other stuff because you know sometimes society's standards of people with disabilities or different abilities,
Yeah.
as I like to say, um, is not true to the real life of it, right?
Mhm.
So they didn't think their perspective of me was that I wasn't capable. But I learned in a very young age, I'm not taking on your perspective of me. Your perspective of me doesn't matter. But I was able to power that more in a confident way after I had my daughter. And I held, like I said, when I held her that first day, because they tried to keep her away from me for 2 days, they didn't want me to really bond with her because they assumed that the state would take her away. But they didn't because it wasn't an option in my brain, which now I know is a manifestation, but it just wasn't an option to me. I didn't let it be an option, no matter what anybody said. But when I held her that second or third day, I just realized that everything was going to change and I was going to change it because I was not allowing her to experience anything that I had experienced, and that included like being in foster care and in the system. Like it was not going to happen. There was no way, no how that was going to happen in my reality. Like, and I had just decided.
What you said, you went into the foster care system at age 13. Were you with your biological parents up until that point? What happened there? Why did you get put in the system?
Well, my biological parents, I love them to death, but my dad had a drug addiction.
Okay.
And it was just not a stable environment for children to be in at all. Right. And although we are fixing our relationship and we have a pretty good relationship now, back then, like my mom, she didn't know how to speak up for herself.
Okay.
I don't think she had the knowledge of being like a confident or believed in herself enough. And then my dad, he just struggled with addiction, and it caused a lot of things to happen that were like not the greatest, you know. And overcoming those traumas and those situations was a big deal for me as well, you know. And learning to forgive and move past that was important to me because they're still a part of my life to this day. And they do have a relationship with my daughter, but learning that like I didn't have to let those experiences define who I am and have power over what can happen to me next in life is such a big thing. And I think a lot of people, we become defined by our childhood experiences, that 0 to 7 years old, and but we don't need to be. We don't have to be. And we can learn the skills and the tools to release it. But it's like we have to be willing to learn the skills and the tools. We have to be willing to put the work in. And I think when people come into like mindset and manifestation, they want instant gratification, instant results, instant, like, give me this relationship, instant, give me the money, right? And like, if everything's reflecting you, you're only going to get what you're willing to give yourself. And if you're not willing to like give yourself healing and time, like how do you think you can get everything else that you want? One of the biggest things that I've learned over the time is the lies that we tell ourselves, right? One of the lies that we tell ourselves, right? Because we're just getting better at telling ourselves lies.
Yep.
That's all we're doing.
We're just storytellers. That's all we're doing in our heads.
Right. We're telling stories.
Yep.
So we're just getting better at the lies that we tell, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like one of the biggest lies that I think society has, and like we have as collective, is obligation and responsibility.
Yeah. And how do you look at responsibility? Because that's a big one. Because people think
I look at like this shifted my brain like not too long ago. My perspective of responsibility changed, and it's not the societal standard of responsibility allows you to play a victim to the choices you've made.
Yeah,
100%.
That's my opinion. It allows you to play a victim to your own choices. See, you can change your choices in any moment. Yeah. You just use responsibility to not change your choices.
Yeah.
And then obligation is a lack of appreciation for your experience.
Yeah.
If you feel obligated to something, you're not appreciating the experience it gives you. And a lot of people get defensive when I use this example, but I'm going to use it. Most people feel obligated to pay their rent, right? I'm obligated to pay my rent. But you're not appreciating the experience that paying your rent gives you, of having a house over your head, having a safe space to go to at night, having a place that you can call your own. Like, that's the experience that you get, but it comes from being willing to even allow yourself to appreciate your own existence.
Yeah.
Because I was in a meditation one day, and it was a time when I was really low, really down, and I was meditating and kind of praying, and I was just talking to God. Mm-hmm. And I said, I was kind of praying that everything would end. And he said, Renee, you want this life, but you're not even willing to appreciate the fact that you exist today. You want everything to go away because you don't want the life that you have, but you're not even willing to appreciate your own existence. The fact that you have air in your lungs today. And he said, I know that it's harder for you because you have extra struggles, but I need you to start at just appreciating your existence. This is the download that I got in my meditation. And I was shocked. It changed my whole view on my life.
Right? Talk about a download.
Whoa, wait a second. What do you mean I need to appreciate my existence? Like, and I was like, I'm not grateful for the fact that I have air in my lungs today. That I woke up, or I was able to accept the fact that I wasn't even being grateful for the fact that I had air in my lungs, and that I get to exist today. I get to exist on this planet and experience that. I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Like,
that's profound.
When you take that moment and you say, wow, like, I get to exist today. I get the honor of having breath in my lungs, because we don't have to have the right to have breath in our lungs. For me, that I believe that comes from God. So like to hear him say to me, "You're taking that for granted, and it's a gift I'm giving you to be able to experience this day."
Quite the wake-up call.
Like, it's quite the shift,
Yeah.
right? And that's when I realized, like, I was obligating myself to all these things that were gifts in my world. Like a lot of times as a parent, you say, I'm obligated to be responsible for my child. You're taking away the choice that you made to bring a child into the world, and you're taking away the value that that child brings to you. I'm not obligated to my daughter. I get to be her mother every day.
Yeah, that's a great way of
I
looking.
get to have the experience of teaching her a new way of living, a new way of thinking. I get to be the one that molds her and shapes her into the best possible human being that can be. And will I make mistakes along the way? Probably. But that's okay. That's her journey.
Yeah.
That's going to be a part of her journey. But we so often want to be these perfect people, right? And we can't say to ourselves and be honest, like, I'm gonna mess up. I might cause some trauma to my child, but you know what? Like, whatever it is, we're gonna deal with it when it comes up.
Yeah.
And we're gonna work toward together. And it's part of my growth and it's part of her growth. But I get the opportunity to experience that. And even a book that changed my life was Existential Kink. I forget the author.
Okay.
But it's about, I forget the author. But it's about the idea that pleasure is pain and pain is pleasure. And when you allow yourself to find the pleasure in your pain, you free yourself from the chains of your pain. Because when you say, like, I used to be terrified of rejection because of my disability. When I started to turn rejection into a form of pleasure, it changed my whole way of going about, like, being in front of people. Because I'm like, there's no way you can reject me now, because now it's funny to me. Like, I think it's hilarious. Like, because I turned it into a pain, a pleasure instead of a pain. So, like, when you shift yourself in those ways, you empower yourself to do more, because now nothing nobody can do can hurt you.
Yeah.
Because it only brings you the good instead of the bad. And that good and bad, it's a label that we put on things. It's not real. It's just how we label it.
Yeah. So when you
when you start, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, when you're working with a client that comes to you, how do you get them into that mindset that you're already in? Because that's like people are listening right now. They're like, okay, how do I get into that mindset that Renee is in? Because that is the catalyst right there. And like, what techniques, what modalities, how do you help people get into that mindset to understand what the freedom is?
Well, first of all, I want to understand where you are. So my thing, and I tend to work with people over longer periods of time, because I'm not like this one and done. Like, I don't like the one session and it'll be perfect idea. Like, for me and how I work is, like, I want to work with you like 6 months to a year, because we're gonna look at every single part of what got you where you are, and then we're going to make a plan to get you to where you want to be, right? So for me, I like to meet my clients where they are. Wherever you are, I want to meet you there, and I want to help you to shift your perspective of your experiences, and I'm not gonna rush you through it. And, like, some of my packages are really intense packages, because, like, I know for myself it's taken me 12 years to get from where I was to where I am today. It doesn't happen. I mean, you can have instant like knowings and instant understandings of healing, and I believe in that, but it still takes time, and it takes a journey. And I want to be that person that's going to be your accountability, that's going to call you out on your bullshit, that's going to be there like I'm gonna baby step you through it, because sometimes that's what some people need. They need that little step at a time to shift, to fully be able. You can't expect to get to from one mindset to mind mindset overnight. I mean, it could happen. I think anything's possible, but I think that it's a process, and you have to appreciate the process. That's the point of the journey. Like, we're put on this spiritual journey to go through a process of self-alchemy, right? It's a form of self-alchemy. So you're not going from here to there overnight.
Yeah,
you got to go through the process. Yeah, you have to go through the process. So like, I will have packages where I'm working with somebody, every other week, for 6 months, or every week if they want something more intense. I have a package where I work with people and I do text coaching with them every day, and then 4 video chats a month. So it's like, depending on the intensity the person wants, like I want to be right in your pocket, so that when you have a reaction or an emotional response, you can text me and say, hey, I was just triggered in this way, and we can shift it right in that moment, because that's what it takes sometimes. Because when you're waiting 2 days or a week later to talk to somebody to help you shift that, those feelings are gone. It's better when you can teach the person in the moment, in the action of when it's occurring.
Well, I like what you just said there, because you're right. A lot of the times what we do is we just bury that emotion. We push it back down. We do something to get over it. And then sure as shit, 6 months later, 2 weeks later, whatever, it's going to resurface. And until that's addressed, we're just in this cycle of pushing it down, letting it come up, bad experience happens, us blaming, the outside world, and us pushing it back down, trying to do something to make us feel better or change our mood, and we never actually take care of the issue. So I see exactly what you're saying. It's kind of like resolving, it's hitting it head on when you need to address something with a client.
Right. And I want to be that, I want to be that person that's going to say, you're full of shit right now. Like, let's deal with the lie you're telling yourself and why you're feeling that way. Right. And so I'm going to call you out on it. I'm going to make you get uncomfortable, and we're going to work through it. And that takes like a person that's really ready to do it. And it takes like somebody that's not afraid to actually call you out. And I'm just not afraid to call people out and be like, what is this showing you? And how to empower them in that moment, because we become so afraid of our emotions. We've become so afraid of our truth that we're scared to actually allow ourselves to feel them, because we deem them as bad. Even for me, like throughout my journey, like I had to learn to sit with my emotions. I had to learn to allow myself to cry, because I was one of those people, when you grow up, I'll give you something to cry about. Like that was one of the things, like I heard a lot growing up. A lot of people did in our time. Children are meant to be seen and not heard. Like, those are stories that we've passed on generation. And those are stories that you have to sit with and ask yourself, like, is this true? Is me, like, and for me, like, I realized I cry when I'm happy. I cry when I'm sad. I cry when I'm grateful. I cry when I'm mad. Like, I basically cry with every single emotion that I could ever experience. But then I felt like crying was a bad thing. So I would hold all these emotions in and feel guilty and not allow myself to feel them and feel like you shouldn't feel like this or this is bad. And it just created this inner turmoil within me to where when I finally got to the point where I could sit with myself and be like, no, I'm just gonna cry. And the emotional like reactions and emotional outbursts like decreased and decreased and decreased and decreased and decreased because I was allowing myself to like sit with what I was feeling, and I was allowing myself to honor what I needed in that moment and what I was looking for outside of myself and give it to myself, right?
Yeah.
And I think being able to sit with a client when they're having an emotional reaction and be there and guide them through it and give them support and let them know that they're safe and they're okay. Like that's powerful. That's change. That's allowing somebody, that's holding the space for somebody to shift, because it's not, you can do it alone. And I did, but it's easier when you have somebody there that's been through it, that knows how it feels, that knows what it's like, and that can guide you into the right way to go next. I can use my own experience to help it not be so hard for you.
Yeah. So essentially what you're doing is you're holding a great space for them to actually be truly honest, which they probably haven't been since they were born.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that honesty of opening up to why you think the problem that you have is with you. So it sounds like you're teaching people how to truly be honest with themselves. And that's the key to it. When we're honest with ourselves, we go deep into our subconscious and remove those beliefs that were given to us. And there's no honesty in those. Those are all false. But a lot of people are scared to go deep. They might think something will happen. But you obviously open up a space for people to go deeper into their subconscious to remove these unwanted beliefs that are holding them from their greatest achievements. Obviously, you did that with yourself on your own. So it obviously is capable of doing it on your own. But hey, it's a lot easier riding a tandem bike than a single bike when you're going uphill, especially.
Well, this also ties into what you were saying, Renee, about the obligation and responsibility. This is, you're teaching people responsibility. You know, when you take an emotion head on, like what you're talking about, and you allow yourself to sit with something, it's no longer I should not feel this way, or I'm not supposed to feel this way. That is also a story that a lot of us tell ourselves in our head. It's more, why am I feeling this way? And honoring why I feel this way, rather than saying I ought not to feel this way. What are your thoughts on that?
Right. And I think that we don't think that we have the right to feel our emotions. A lot of times we're like, well, I shouldn't feel this way, or that's not the way that person intended it. Well, that's the way you took it, and it's okay. And understanding why you took it that way is your responsibility. But allowing yourself, if you're angry, if you are angry with something and something happened that made you mad, right? Making yourself feel guilty for feeling mad is not going to help you feel better. It's not going to help you release the anger that you have. Whether it's justified or not, it doesn't really matter. You have to feel it. You have to feel it, and you have to sit with it, and you have to be like, I'm really angry. And why am I really angry right now? And am I choosing to be angry? How long am I going to choose to be angry for? And you could decide that. You can say, I'm going to be angry for 15 minutes. I'm going to be angry for an hour. Whatever you feel like you need in that moment, it's fine. There's no right or wrong answer. But see, a lot of the times, it's like we make ourselves have a right or wrong answer. Well, I can only be, for my manifestation to come true, I can only be angry for 5 minutes. Like, you know, because we're so worried we're going to ruin it more. We're going to ruin it more. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing you can do to ruin it. Like, that's the biggest lie we tell ourselves. Yeah. It's like, I'm ruining it more. I'm making it worse. I'm messing it up. I'm doing something wrong. That's like one of the biggest lies that we tell ourselves. nothing you can do is going to ruin anything. It's the decision that you make.
Yeah.
Right? And when you realize that it's the decision, I can sit here and cry all day long and feel like nothing is working out, nothing is going my way. And I can make the decision tomorrow when I wake up that everything is happening that I want, and I will have the best day of my life. Like, it doesn't matter. And that's the thing, one of the things that I teach when I work with somebody is like, yesterday is a whole life of its own. Today is a new life. If you start each day with a new breath of life, and you end each day as if it was a death of that life, you cannot take nothing with you, because we have past life, but people don't realize their past life is yesterday. It's not something distant that you don't remember. Your past life was yesterday. Your future life is tomorrow. So why are you worried about that? We have to live in this life, which is a 24-hour period of time. When I close my eyes, that ends that life. That means nothing after that comes with me that I don't want to come with me, and nothing before that matters.
So you're teaching people.
And that's where I've shifted myself.
Yeah. So you're essentially teaching people how to detach from the concept of who they are and were in order to have this freedom.
That's part of it, because I think it's a part, like there's so many levels to it. It's a part of detachment, it's a part of neutrality, it's, alchemy of yourself. It's learning to honor your emotions, and these are all like skills that we accumulate in our toolbox. We each have our own toolbox, right? And we want to do an inventory of our toolbox all the time, because we want to continue to grow it and develop it and make it better. And like, that's why it's no such thing as perfection, because you only have tools. Because you're going to have, I don't care how long you've been doing mindset, manifestation work, like personal growth work, it doesn't matter. You're going to have a moment where you react, where something still triggers you. Like, you could be doing this 50 years and you're still gonna get triggered at some point in time by somebody. You're still gonna have an unwanted experience, emotion, because that's the duality of life. That's the yin and yang of life. We're meant to have those seasons and those periods because they grow us. But so many of us look at them as failures and faults. But it's not, none of that is real. It's just growth. It's just your spiritual self taking you to the next level of how you can grow, showing you what tools you can develop more of, right? And when you shift it from my trigger is bad, my trauma is bad, to my trigger is good and it's showing me where I need to grow and develop, you're shifting how you experience your triggers now on a fundamental level. They're not triggers because they're only a tool to show you where you are and where you want to go.
Yeah, they're kind of like doors opening. So when you get triggered, it's a new door to step into rather than run from. So that's why obviously the advice you give the people to sit with your emotion, because an emotion's telling you something. It's not to push you away. And if we suppress that emotion, it's just going to come back louder and louder. And eventually you'll open the door and then deal with it. And I've experienced that in my life where when you do that, you actually sit with the emotion, like you said, and it's actually a messenger, and it wasn't anything to be scared of. It was to tell you something that, okay, it's time to elevate to a higher level. Are you ready? Yes, I am. And if I choose to shove it down, it means I'm not. And that's the process I may have to go through in that moment. But eventually, it's going to be part of my journey is to go through that door. That's why we're here.
And I feel like that's where the majority of at least the Western world is stuck. We're taught that as soon as we don't feel good, okay, I need to pick up my phone and scroll through social media. Oh, I don't feel good. I just need it to be Friday. Oh, I don't feel good. I better go get a drink. Better go to the bar. I don't feel good. Oh, I better make my favorite dish for.
I don't feel good. I better watch Perspective Shift.
Well, that will hopefully make them feel better. But these are all things that we do to avoid feeling the emotion. These are all things these are all opposite directions that we run to avoid doing what you're talking about, which is you have to sit with this.
But you
It's
want
there
to,
as a
yeah.
teacher, you know, and
Yeah.
like you said, you know, it turns into, it's no longer a nuisance to sit with
No.
it. You begin to appreciate it, and you begin to actually love it and honor it and be like, wow, there's something there. Here's more for me to learn. Does that sound correct?
Right. And it's like what you're doing when you're like seeking those other things, like emotional eating used to be one of my things, or like going to the bar or whatever the case may be. You know, you're seeking that dopamine hit.
Yeah.
And it only is gonna last for so long.
Yeah.
Like it's only gonna be there for like so long, and then it's gonna die off, and you're gonna need another one, and you're gonna create this cycle, and then you're gonna ask yourself, why am I in this cycle? Like, what the hell is wrong with the cycle? Because you're going to create a cycle that you don't like for yourself. And all cycles are doing is showing you something that you need to let go of.
Yeah.
That's all it's doing, is it's like showing you that, okay, this is something you need to let go of. And this is something you need to release within yourself. Like, but understanding that, like, there's no version of perfection. It's like you have to get to a point where you're just comfortable, secure, and safe within yourself and within your experience, whether you have the relationship, the car, the money, the this, the that. Are you comfortable with you? Are you comfortable right now, today? Like, without it, like, I'm gonna be, like, for me, it's like, I know that I'm gonna be good whether I get the clients, get the money, get the relationship, or whatever. I'm good because I decided that I'm good.
Yeah.
And like that's where the real power comes into. That's where the real like shift comes into, when you realize that no matter what, like, even if I have $5 in my bank account, I'm good.
Yeah.
You know, I'm good, and I'm living my truth and my best life. And that's what matters. That's what counts, because I think we try to chase all these things, right? The relationship, the money, the this, the that, to not face things in our life, right? We think, well, the relationship will make me feel better, or the money will make it easier. But in reality, you could be a billionaire and still hate yourself. We all know there's been people out there that have all the money in the world, but they don't like themselves in the day. They look in the mirror and they hate themselves.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because they're not willing to sit with the truth. And they thought the money was going to fix everything, but it didn't. And what fixes it is the willingness to love yourself unconditionally. That's what it's truly about. And to carry the love of God within yourself, in my opinion. It's that unconditional love of God that we carry within ourselves to empower us to love ourselves that way.
Yeah. And the byproduct of what you're teaching actually will draw people to you for more clients and more money. That's an after effect that comes to you. So to people out there, we're not telling you to not accept gifts, but the gifts come from the state in which you're in, not chasing the gift itself. So like,
Right, and
obviously by you being who you are, people are going to be drawn to you to want to be coached by you. And that becomes the byproduct of just being who you are.
and when somebody gives you a gift, I wanna point out this shift too, because a lot of the time we don't allow ourselves to accept gifts, especially when you're talking like financially. Like, we don't feel worthy of it, or whatever the case may be. So like, when you're accepting a gift from somebody, or a gift from God, or a gift from the universe, you're saying, I appreciate my existence enough to allow myself to have that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a reflection of you appreciating your existence and your purpose. It's not something that you have to chase and get. It's an appreciation that you have to have for yourself. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
100%.
That's kind of the paradox of how people think. They think they have to deserve to get the gift, but the gift is actually the deserving of who they are. So they always put the cart in front of the horse, as you will, rather than realizing you you already are perfect and the gifts just come. But it's the recognition and feeling that you're already that essence of perfection. But life isn't perfect. Why? Because it's still going on. It's never ending. It's like looking at a painting that you're still painting. It's not perfect because you're not done, and we're never going to be done. So perfection is knowing that you're never going to be done. Period. I think that's how it's
Right.
Yeah.
And it's being comfortable in the incompleteness of who you are.
Yeah.
Like for me, it's like I'm never going to be like this standard person that everybody sees, like a model on a magazine. It's never gonna be me.
No.
I'm me though, and I can be empowered in that knowing. And like I might never heal my disability. I might be able to shift my mind to a universe where I can walk. I believe that's possible, right?
Yeah.
Anything's possible. But if I never get there, like I'm okay, right? Like it's no matter what, it's who I'm supposed to be, and it's a part of my story.
It is
It's a
just
part of my story. And that's the powerful part of it. The fact that I am different, the fact that I am unique, the fact that I own that is the gift that I have for the world.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. We're not meant to be homogenous. We're meant to be different. And
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say one thing that I wanted to bring up and share is you're talking about this giving and receiving, and how important it is to allow ourselves, on both sides. I heard somebody share one time, and I thought this was great. So just like the breath, we get confused and we think like, there can be no in breath without an out breath. There can't be any out breath without an in breath. And we need to look at giving and receiving in that same way, as if it is a breath. And it with giving, we can't just give and give and give and not receive. It's just like the breath. It's an in and out. So the giving and the receiving are two things that move together in tandem simultaneously. Do you agree with that?
I think everything, that's the yin and yang of life in itself. Like it's a balance. You can't have the flowers without the rain. You can't have the sun without the darkness. Like everything in our 3D world experience is a give and a take, is a yin and a yang and a balance. And like that's why, like for me, the idea of like perfection is not real, because you can't have it. It's just not a part of our duality of life, and how this universe and this realm was created in duality of good, bad, yes, no, up and down. So we gotta honor that duality within itself. Give and take, is a duality. But for some people, that one is the hardest, because like for me, I know like I wanted a lot of time to prove my worth and my value, and that would come across as me over giving to people, over extending myself to try to show up in a way that I thought would give me the love back. And what I've learned over time is like, no, like there has to be a balance within the give and take. I don't have to do everything to make you happy if you're not giving that same energy back to me, because it's going to become unbalanced, and it's going to create a not good cycle.
Yeah.
For myself.
Yeah. And that's the thing about when they talk about giving and receiving, and they say it's better to give. And where is a lot of misconception about that is, I have the ability to give instantly, but if I'm receiving, I have to wait. But when I actually give my all, like I put my energy field to a higher level, I receive exactly, because we're always receiving. So if I'm in a bad mood, I'm going to receive things that are giving me a bad mood. But if I'm giving out positive energy, if I'm giving out love, I automatically receive love in the same time. So in breathing in and breathing out, it's called breath. So when we actually, like you're teaching people take control and give, we actually receive at the same exact time. But if we're only waiting to receive, we're waiting for the outside world to conduct it. And when I give my higher energy, if I'm just sitting down and feeling good, happens to me all the time. People just unexpectedly give me stuff, but it was the energy field that allowed them to give it to me. It wasn't my, if I'm feeling sorry for myself, someone's going to tell me, they're going to give me information that I'm not going to like, but I have the control over the giving, and then the receiving is automatic. Just like when I control my inward breath, I don't worry about the outward breath. It takes care of itself, but it has to happen.
Right. And it's like learning that like control of like, I can decide what this is going to do or what this is going to be. And it's taking that responsibility, because a lot of the times especially when you're playing victimhood, like you're playing that role, you're blaming everything outside of you, like for everything that's happening inside of you. So you're not like, and everything flows through you. So you're not taking that full responsibility for what is flowing through you, for that energy that you're giving off. You're trying to put that responsibility onto something or someone else. There's no such thing as no movement in your reality. It's moving constantly into the direction that you're focusing on, into the energy that you're focusing on. So if you're feeling stuck in a situation, you're just putting your energy on being stuck.
Yeah, and you receive more things that make you feel like you suck. So that's what we have to be careful what we give. What energy am I giving out to the world? I'm going to get exactly the same thing back. So by you teaching people how to stay in a more positive realm, regardless of what your conditions are they're neutral. There's no inherent understanding to them until we give it that information. So there's no real empirical inheritance to anything outside of us unless the definition of the belief we give to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously,
right. And it's like, sorry, it's like connect that to the divine knowing, and the divine connection with God is like what can guide you. A lot of the time when we're doing that, we're not listening to the intuition inside of us. We're defying our intuition, and that creates the separation. That creates the distance, because we're not allowing ourselves to listen. We're playing the role. We're putting the mask on. We're playing a character for something or for someone else.
yeah.
So right.
And that becomes exhausting.
Very, very well.
That's why Halloween's only one day a year.
Hey, I love Halloween.
Yeah, but don't
It's
you
the
like
one day a year we actually stop pretending that we're not all running around with
yeah,
a
but
mask.
you know what I noticed about Halloween? When I go to the party, I come home, taking that costume off is amazing.
Yeah,
It's actually we peel off our truth, we peel off and become our truth again.
And that's what Renee's talking
Yeah.
about right here, which is taking off that mask. I know exactly what you're saying, Renee, how good that feels when you do take that mask off and you're like, I don't have to play this character. And we've identified with this character so long. And, we keep these thoughts, just like you're saying, a loop and a cycle. And we begin to think we are this character. But it's a simple letting go, taking off the mask. And you're like, I don't need to suffer.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're not the character you play, and you're not the circumstances you experience.
Correct.
But one of the things that I love to say is, I am everything and I am nothing, but in all of it I am love.
Yeah.
If you come from that understanding all the time, you are everything, you are nothing. And but in all of it, you can choose to be loved. It's not even that I choose to be that I am loved, but you choose what you are. So you could choose to be the victim, and you are everything, you are nothing. You can choose to be the victim. You can choose to be the circumstance. You can choose to be whatever you want to put there. But for me, I've learned to choose to be love, because that's the ultimate energy. So when when I say, who am I? When I answer that question to people now, I am everything and I am nothing. But in all of it, I am loved. That's who I am.
And when you
because
choose
that's
that,
who God made.
Yeah. And when you choose that, that's exactly what you get back.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're choosing to
Uh-huh.
give love by being love, and then you receive it instantly. It's not a delayed reaction. And that's the brilliance of it. When you take control, like you're saying, and teaching people to take control over what they give, they instantly get back exactly what they give. And that's where we
Mhm.
learn to get control of this rather than waiting for someone to do something, waiting for the world to change. I'm like, good luck with that. You know, we have the ability, like you mentioned earlier, we are alchemists. So if you give me a ball of lead, I'm going to turn it into gold.
Mm-hmm.
And that's now that I know how to turn it to gold, there is no circumstance situation that that's going to take me down. You know, it's going to make me focus, you know, because if I'm trying to focus, if I'm not focused with a ball of lead, it's going to pull me down. But if I have a ball of lead in front of me and I'm focused, I can turn that lead into gold and then keep it coming, keep it coming. And it means to be remaining in a conscious state. And that's where love is. In the essence of love, you're always conscious.
Right. And it's like we say to ourselves, like a lot of people say, like, but they're not showing up this way. Right. Like I had a client say to me, like, but that person is not showing up in a way that is respectful to me or shows me that I'm deserving or whatever the case may be. And I'm like, because you're holding them, even though you believe and hold the belief that you're respected, loved, and chosen, you're holding that person into the version of them that doesn't reflect that back to you. And that's another thing that we don't understand all the way is like we can hold people into lower versions of themselves
Yeah.
because you're the only one observing them. They're not observing themselves in that moment. They're observing you, but you're observing them. So like when you realize like I'm holding you to that version of yourself, like then you can release that version and decide the new version of that person. You know, like even when I go into like my past, I change the version of my parents. I change the version of the people that I interact with so that I don't experience that no more. And I say I'm no longer that version. And if the old version shows up, I say they're no longer that version and I move forward. You know what I mean? And it takes practice and it takes discipline and it doesn't have to happen overnight. But I think we're so quick for that dopamine hit, that dopamine change, that we want everything to happen overnight and we become impatient and we do not know the art of persistence in the new story and in the new idea of who we are and how to identify with that new story over time. We have a lack of faith in the persistence. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
That was actually my favorite thing that you said, Renee,
Yeah.
because that I see myself do that. Like I do that with my brother, you know, I see when my brother's in a tough spot and I try to and I realize that like I'm holding him to that spot. Me observing him in a certain way holds him to that character and holds him to that role. And it's in letting go of that or changing the narrative or seeing him where I know he's capable of being. That's how I help release him of the bondage. That's how I help release him of the story, is I need to change my perspective onto it. And that's what a lot of people, and I hope those listening at home realize, is how we look at others and how the story we have on others affects the role that they play in our lives. And why should we be surprised to see them any other way than the way we're observing them?
Yeah. So when you actually started changing your perspective on how you looked at your parents, did you notice an outward change in your parents?
Um, somewhat, yes, but somewhat like they can still have tendencies of old habits. But
Yeah.
I think that like I meet them where they are, right? So like one of the things like, and I use the Bible a lot because that's what I grew up knowing and understanding. Like we're not supposed to, like love is patient, love is kind, love does not boast, love does not envy, it does not hold people to
Unconditional.
the transgressions, right? So like if I'm not gonna hold you to your past, because that's what your transgressions are, is your past, like I'm not gonna hold I can still have boundaries within myself of like, I'm not going to allow you to show up that way. So if you're in that mode right now, we can end this like conversation or whatever. So I can have those boundaries and that respect for myself and that awareness that I don't have to engage. But I can also hold that space of love and knowing that they're growing in their own pace and their own time and their own spirituality and not have to force it, right? So there's that duality again in life because we expect everything to be instant, but it don't always work out that way. It's like holding that duality of like, I know there's this better version of you, right? And I know this is where you are right now. And I'm going to accept where you are. I'm going to meet you where you are and continue to hold this version of you and allow you to shift at your pace and your time. And also respect the boundaries or the things that I need to put in place to make sure that it's an equal give and take of energy.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And
so that's kind of how I look at it, because I don't think we should force a change because you're just going to make it worse.
No, because I would not want I want someone to hold a precious, unconditional love for me as well. I wouldn't want someone to come in and tell me what I'm doing is wrong either. We're all on our own journey. We don't know enough to know these journeys are wrong. Like obviously, when you were young, you were told that you stood out and then it became obvious to you. But prior to that, you were probably in this more peaceful place of memory, of understanding like this is who I am. So somewhere along the line, if we, we get into spiritual mode, we got to be careful that we're not pointing out problems in other people because that means we have them in us. And all of a sudden, I'm not here to fix people or help people. I'm here to serve people.
And what are these problems? Are they actually problems or
no,
are they
circumstance situations to, like you said, your condition and circumstance that is put in front of you is what made you grow. So why would you condemn that? I think it was wrong. And I think people are looking for right or wrong, and there is no right or wrong. There is an understanding of moving towards something that you like, moving towards love. And if you're moving away from love, you feel it. Emotions will let you know that. And so, but the choice of moving away from love wasn't wrong. It just wasn't working. Which, why isn't it wrong? Because it's showing you it's not working. And so therefore it's right. So now you've learned something. Okay. And this is how we learn on this planet, we do something and it doesn't work out. Well, we learned, don't do it that way anymore. Try something different. And we try something different, like, it's a little better. It's a little better. And then part of the human existence, because we're energy, is we're not getting better. We're becoming more efficient. And the more I can even make my life more efficient than it is today, but I'm not in a rush to do it because I don't know how to rush to that. Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, it's like we feel like we should be in a rush, and like and we continue to should ourselves to death. Like, I should be here, or I should be at this point in my business, or I should be at this point in my healing, or whatever the case may be. Like, and it like literally slowly kills us. Like, it's literally shooting ourselves to death. And but when we step back from that and we allow ourselves to say, like, no, I'm exactly where I, have to be, and we don't allow that, because where shoulding comes from is comparison. So like comparing yourself to something else or somebody else's journey, like compare and despair, they go together. Like, when you compare something, you are putting yourself in a state of despair, right? So like, I am all for this like place where we empower each other to stop like comparing ourselves to, because there's nobody that compares to me, like, and there's nobody that compares to either one of you. We're each unique in our own way. Like, and me saying that is not like a slight to anybody, but some people might take it like that, but then that's their perspective. But it's like me saying, I am me, and that is great, and I'm proud of that. And you are you, and I'm proud of that. And it's amazing how we can come together and like shift and create something unique and awesome, right? So I'm not comparing myself to how much more experience you have or how much experience I have. We're not comparing ourselves to each other and debating. We're just coming together to create something amazing and take each one of our uniquenesses and empower change in other people, right?
Beautifully
And to
said.
empower their unique individuality, because they're amazing in who they are, and they have gifts to offer, and we want them to step into those gifts. That's what this is about. It's empowering everybody to step into their unique individual gifts and who they were meant to be at the essence of themselves.
Yeah.
Your essence of your soul. Because we get so disconnected from that essence because we play the role. You know. So you're either in your essence or you're in your role. Which one are you choosing?
See that you hit it on the head with that statement.
Yeah, it was beautifully said.
Because at the end of the day, that's exactly it. You know, we're either playing or we become it. You know, and we fall back, all 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 Jumps in. Okay, so we're here.
Oh, there you go.
Hold on. Do we see us?
I'm
Should be here. Oh, let me see.
Go to participants, I think, right?
Participant. Oh, start video right here.
There you go.
I'm so sorry, he's froze, and all I do is go back.
It's showing that we're still recording in the top
Yeah.
left. I think
All right,
we're
yeah,
good
we're
there.
still recording. All right, perfect. Sorry about that.
Little tech
Yeah, no.
difficulties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
But as you were saying, like we are either in our essence of ourselves, of our true selves, or we're in the role that we're playing, and you could choose to go back and forth in between. But it's up to you, and becoming aware allows you that choice. It allows you that ability.
Give us 1 second. We're having
Yeah, check the cord on the side. Yeah, Renee.
Can you talk again for us, Renee?
Yes, can you hear me?
Perfect. All right, perfect.
We're
Yep.
back normal. Sorry for
Sorry
a second
about that.
there. You were not coming in through our speaker or through our headphones.
No, that's okay.
So
I was saying. Go ahead.
no, dive into it. What were you saying?
I was saying that so that you're either coming from that essence of who you truly are, from that energy field of who you truly are, or you're coming from the character you're playing. The art of becoming aware is to learn to choose which one you want at any time. So you can choose to go back and forth, and you can choose in a moment that right now I feel it's most appropriate for me to play this role. Or you can choose like right now is the appropriate time for me to be my authentic self, and then as you empower that essence of self, you become more comfortable with it, and you play the role less and less and less and less, and only when you feel you need to, because the role is a safety mechanism.
Yeah. And also, like in the world we live in with other people around us, sometimes playing that role is needed. But when you understand you're playing for that, you're not attached to it. Just like when we put the costume on Halloween, we realize, okay, I'm going to play this role fully, but at the end of the night, I'm taking it off. So there's no attachment to it. That's where the fun of Halloween comes in. So once you get to the understand where I can put this costume on and remain in my essence, that's the brilliance of it. That's the beauty of it.
Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You kind of understand
That's the art of the balance.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Exactly.
That's the dance we play.
Renee, I have a question for you. So
yes,
once you started to understand these concepts on, both a analytical thinking level and on a true deep level, what changes in your life did you experience? Whether that's an enhanced experience with your family members, whether that's better health, what differences did you know, like physically in this 3D realm, that you noticed change once you started to open up to these concepts?
so the changes for me, I completely changed my life. I went from being married to being single.
Okay.
I started to go after my passions, after building my business, and after the relationship that I really wanted in my life. And I really kind of just switched my whole life around. And I've created an atmosphere for myself to grow and to thrive within the essence of who I want to be and how I want to show up. And I'm still building it. And I'm proud of that. I used to feel like should be farther right now, but I've gotten to this place where I'm really proud of all the work that I've done to change my mindset, because maybe it all hasn't manifested in my 3D yet, but I'm a completely different person than I was a year ago, and I'm a completely different person than I was 3 years before that. And that to me shows more more willingness on myself and loving myself than anything else. And in 6 months, I'm going to be a completely different person than I am today. And honoring that within myself is bigger than anything that could manifest in my 3D reality. I know at this point that all my dreams are going to come true. It doesn't really matter when or where or how. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable. I'm finally comfortable with where I am.
Yeah.
And I'm finally proud of where I am. I've manifested things in my life I met this couple that invented a machine so that I can go to the bathroom independently. I seen the machine in my head before I even knew the couple that made it.
Wow.
And I seen the exact way it was going to be built.
Yeah.
And then a year later, they came into my life when I needed an answer because I didn't want to go back into a nursing home. And I was facing that over the pandemic.
Okay.
And I was like, how can I go to the bathroom without support? Because nobody wanted, we were having trouble, keeping people in the industry, of home care.
Yeah.
And so I was like, how am I going to do this? And I envisioned this machine to help me go to the bathroom during the day. And a year later, I ran into this couple, and his wife, the guy who invented it, his wife had MS, and he needed to go back to work, but he couldn't leave her alone. So that because she needed help going to the bathroom, so he invented this machine so that she can go to the bathroom on her own in her chair without having to get a permanent catheter put in, because that's a big surgery and it does a lot of bad things to your body, and I didn't want to do that either. So when I met them, it was like, oh, we made this thing, and it was the exact thing that I pictured in my head. All the parts and the pieces, I knew what they were, and I seen them, but I didn't know how to put them together. And this man did it, and he said, And I remember it was so weird and freaky to me because the exact day that I did the visualization was the exact day he started creating it. And I had wrote it down.
You pulled it out of the ether.
And,
That's kind of interesting.
and it was like, and the way I ended up meeting this person was like such a random, like life-changing, like event too, because I was doing a lot of advocacy work for home care workers because in New York State they don't get paid enough right now, and I'm trying to change that. So that's another thing that I'm passionate about and I work on.
Mhm.
And I was doing a lot of TV interviews to say, hey, like people need care,
Yeah.
and we need to be more caring society. So I was doing all these like interviews on TV, and the organization that I do advocacy work with now called me and was like, will you come down to like Albany, New York and be a part of like our like budget like protesting for the like this was like 2 budgets ago, like for the year, because you are from Buffalo and our governor is from here.
Okay.
Like our governor of New York State is from my hometown. So they were like, will you come down and do some advocacy work because you're really good at storytelling and you're really good at like getting attention and things like that. So I was like, yeah, I'll come down. So I randomly got on a train and went to meet these people that I never met before in my life.
Yep.
Like never ever met them. And I like just trusted my intuition that this is like where I'm supposed to be. Right. And like all my friends and family was like, you're getting on a train to meet strangers. What if somebody kidnapped you or something? Like they were like so worried about me.
Right.
And I was like, I can't tell you what it is. I just know that I'm supposed to go.
Yeah.
And it ended up being like I ended up staying there for like 2 weeks. And it ended up being the most amazing 2 weeks of my life, and a big part of me finding my true self and my true essence. And like I met this couple on there, and they were like, we have this machine, and it was the exact thing that I manifested.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then somebody ended up like gifting it to me because he was like, it's going to cost this much for me to make you one. And I didn't have it at the time.
Yeah.
And another woman that was part of the movement was like, I want to give that to you because I don't want you to go into a nursing home. And she ended up like paying for it to get built. There's like all these things like happened like simultaneously.
Yeah.
To like bring this independence to me that I still use to today. Yeah. Like because I don't fully have staff yet, but it's coming. But I still am able to use it to this day, and it was because I trusted my intuition and my knowing that this is where I was supposed to be. And I didn't even like, I didn't manifest for the machine like constantly every day. I didn't even think about it every day. Yeah. I thought about it every once in a while over that year time.
Yeah.
And it still manifested. So that shows you like how powerful it is.
Yeah.
You know, and like there's times where I just make decisions. Like when I first got into manifesting, I was talking to one of my old friends, and I was like kind of trying to explain it to her and get her to know that it's like a real thing. And I was like, she was like, no, it's not. I'm like, I'm gonna show you. And I started telling her every day that somebody was gonna hand me $100 on the street. Mm-hmm. And I started saying it, and I said that to her every day that I seen her for like 2 weeks. And then one day and she says to me, do you want to go out to lunch? And I said, yeah, let's go to lunch. So we go to our local mall, and we're sitting in the food court, and we're eating lunch, and it's around December. And a man walks up to me, and he says, I like your smile. Can I give you a gift for Christmas? And he hands me $100. Exactly. $100.
Wow. Right in front of her, too.
And right in front of her, she was sitting right? Like,
Yep.
and she was like, you have to be kidding me. You have to be kidding me.
You have to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Oh my
She was
God.
like, there was no way he would have ever knew that you have been saying that for 2 weeks. And literally, I just said it to her every day. Somebody's gonna hand me $100. Somebody's gonna hand me $100,
Yeah.
and it literally happened. Like, and it, like those things are what like inspires me, you know. And then I need an accessible car because I have a wheelchair. So
Yeah.
the cars that I usually have to buy are more expensive. And when I was going through my divorce with my ex-husband, like we had to sell our car and split the car. I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna get another car. Like at the time, and the money wasn't there. It just wasn't. So I sat there and I said, it doesn't matter. Like something's gonna work out. And I just kind of decided that like it's gonna be fine. And every time I would think about it, I said no, like it's gonna be fine. So then the dealership called me that had to buy our car back. And so well, we have this older car, but it's still good. But we want like $25,000 for it. And it was gonna be like super expensive payments because you have to have special insurance when you have a wheelchair van. So between the car payment and the insurance, it was going to be like $1,500 a month for me to maintain. And I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, nope, we're not doing that. And I said, I don't know how it's going to happen, but this is going to be my car. And I ended up telling the dealer guy, I said, you know what? Don't worry about it. Like, something else will come up. And he just kind of accepted my answer, like at first. And he emailed me and was like, well, what can you afford? And I was like, well, I'll do 7,000 outright. Like I just picked a random low number. and he ended up calling me like 2 days later and said, I got the car. Now, mind you, this car was $25,000 car.
Okay.
He said, I got the car down to 7,000 for you.
Wow.
Including tax. And then I randomly got a check for $7,000 from the other car that paid for that car. So like just random stuff happens.
Yeah, and it's random because we don't understand it, but it's really universal source working in our favor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the best synchronistic examples I've heard, and that is beautiful.
It's because you knew it was going to happen, but not how. That's the brilliance.
Right, and it's even the apartment that I'm in now, like I knew like I had been wanting a 2-bedroom for like a couple of years because me and my daughter were sharing a room in a 1-bedroom. And I was like, nope, I'm done. Like I'm done waiting. Like there's one gonna come available. It's just gonna come available. And then they ended up the landlords were like, oh, the 2-bedroom is open, but you're not gonna get it because there's 3 people ahead of you for a 2-bedroom. And I was like, nope, don't care. It's mine. I'm moving in. I just like kind of decided. And it took like a couple months, but she came back to me a month later and said, well, the first person, they turned it down. They don't want it. So we got to go to the next person. Then she come back to me like a month after that and was like, well, I'm waiting for the guy to do his paperwork, but he's not doing it. And I said, because he's not. Like, I said it to myself. I'm like, because he's not going to do it. Like, so I decided that within myself. And then, like, a month after that, she was like, well, I guess you can have the apartment because the person never did the paperwork and their 60 days is up. And I moved into the apartment. Like,
oh my gosh.
But it's like you have to decide that's what it is.
Yeah.
Like and I love affirmations and I love that stuff and I think they're powerful. But the real power comes when you learn how to start just making decisions and staying with them and persisting in the decision no matter what you see. Like I know my business is going to be successful. And you stay within that decision, and you own that decision, no matter what it looks like, you're gonna have a successful business.
Yeah.
Like, it's just knowing and learning how to like decide something and know that it's yours, know that it's already done. Like God said, everything that's under the sun is already done.
Yeah.
So when you empower that, like, and you like take that as your promise, then you can have everything. And
Yeah.
it doesn't matter whether it takes 5 years or 2 minutes. Like, it doesn't really matter. And you appreciate the journey along the way. And that's where I really have come to understand, because, you know, for me, when I first got into this, and when I first like started changing things in my life, I was in a place where I wanted that instant gratification and that instant change. But then when I started to really realize, like, no, this is about me finding me and empowering me and loving myself in every single way, and releasing the old emotions and releasing the stories that don't serve me. Like, I've become unstoppable.
Yeah.
Like, nothing can really stop me now because I'm not in my own way.
Yeah. Great. And that's the thing about success, or whatever you want to call it. When you deem it to be successful, the thing is, it doesn't happen. People say it doesn't happen all at once. Just like every song I listen today, I can only listen to one song at a time. But once I'm facing in the direction, or I'm successful, I just get more of it. So people think it all supposed to come at once. I'm like, no. If I live to 100 years old, I'm going to have 3 meals a day, but I only need the one meal I'm eating now. And that's where people, they get hung up on. They think they need, like, if someone's, I want $1 million. Why? Because I want to do this. I'm like, well, are you ready to do that now? You might not need the $1 million right now. It might come in a different way. Like, it might be gifted to you. So we always narrow the field down of what success is. In your case, like thinking about this machine and someone gifting it to you, you getting the car, virtually just transferring your old car to get that car. It came in a way that people can't logically explain. But if you're trying to get there, they actually shut out that mystical way that it will come, and they don't see it coming. So they don't even try to go down that road. But you're teaching us by just telling a story that it comes in ways that you can never, like, it comes even better than how Santa Claus comes down the chimney with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just more
Yeah,
magical. Yeah.
yeah, and it's just like
magic.
it's literally, if you allow the magic to show up in your life. One of the things a lot of my friends tell me is, Renee, I don't know how you do it. You live magical. Like, you are just magic. You are the essence of magic, and I don't know like how you do it. And I'm just like, you have to believe. You have to
Yeah.
believe. You
Yeah.
have to believe that it's possible. And one of the things that I've always had, you know, I've had people tell me throughout my life, you're never going to do this. You're never going to do that. You're never going to be this, because I was different. Like, I heard that story over and over again, even before I was awake. And I always knew, some part of me always knew, no, I am. No, I am. And it was like, it just, like, for me now, I don't have to, like, it doesn't come from a place of proving. Before, I think it came from a place of like, I'm gonna show you.
Yeah.
But now it comes from a place of like, I just am. Like, watch. Like, I want you to see it. Um, but like, I just always knew like that I was, and that it would be okay, and that like I had something on my side that was gonna make sure that, you know, like when I was in the group home and the nursing home, and they said, you know, you're never gonna live independently on your own. And the day I left, one of the workers looked at me and said, you'll be back in 3 months because you're never gonna make it. That was almost 17 years ago. Like, you know, like things like that. Like, people would look at me and think that it's impossible. The day I had my daughter, and they were trying like so hard to find a reason to not let us take her home, like, to the point where I almost died. Like, but it didn't matter, because I knew better. I knew different. I didn't allow that to stop me, even to the point where, like, healing my own body to go home. because like one of the things that they did was they nicked an artery when they were doing my C-section. And it's a debate between people, but some people think they did it on purpose. Some people think it was an accident. We'll never know the truth.
Yes, yeah.
But I was bleeding internally, literally bleeding internally, and they didn't know, and they gave me blood transfusions, and they sent me away to another hospital. And the other hospital, like, said, like, oh, they shouldn't have nicked you. Like, I literally had a doctor say, like, that doctor who did this should have known better. Like, I feel like it was purposeful and it was malpractice. And I looked at the doctor and I said, all I really wanted to go home to my daughter, because what they were going to do was they were trying to make my ex-husband leave the hospital. They told him he couldn't stay there anymore because I wasn't there and there was no room for him, that the room only goes to the mother. And so what my ex-husband did, and what we had talked about, because we kind of knew something like that was going to happen. And what he did was he went into the cafeteria of the hospital and he slept on a bench, and he didn't leave the hospital because the moment he would have left, they would have been able to claim our daughter as abandoned.
Wow.
So he didn't leave, then come back to me at the other hospital. I have this doctor telling me that I have a pool of blood in my stomach, and I'm bleeding out, and my heart rate is 300 beats per minute, like, what is like super duper not that good. And they're like thinking I'm gonna have a heart attack, and I'm sitting there in a meditative state, like, I don't care, like, I'm meditating, I'm praying, like, I got this, it's gonna be good. So they do an MRI at 12 in the afternoon, and in the MRI you can see the blood in my stomach, and then they do an MRI because they scheduled surgery for the next morning at 10 a.m. They were going to cut me open again to sew up and drain the blood, and I did not want to get cut open again. So they scheduled surgery for the next morning at 10 a.m. And the doctor comes in at 8 a.m. and he says, I know we did an MRI yesterday at 12, which was not even 12 hours ago, but I want to do another one just to pinpoint exactly where the bleed is in your stomach. And they take me to the MRI room and they do the second one. And instead of wheeling me right to the operating room, which was what they were supposed to do, they took me back to my room, and I said, what's happening? And the doctor walks in the room and he puts the new MRI up, and the blood in the hole is gone, completely gone.
Oh my God.
He said, I can't find it. I can't find it. All the blood has been absorbed back into your body, and the hole filled itself. And he looks at me and he goes, I cannot explain this. This is a medical miracle. This is unexplainable. And he says, whatever you pray to, whatever God you pray to, that's who I'm praying to from now on. Because
seriously,
yeah.
Because
What's his name?
I cannot.
that story gave me goosebumps, by the way.
Yeah.
He said, and this was even before I was fully awake. I just meditated. I just decided that I wasn't having surgery.
Wow.
Like, it was not an option. And it was like, God's gonna heal me, or something else is gonna happen, but I don't know what it is. But this is not. I'm not going under. I'm not going under again. Like, and I clearly made the decision, and that's what happened. Like, and he literally released me like 13 hours later to go home, and then the hospital was annoyed and pissed because they couldn't do what they wanted to do.
Yep.
But it just shows you, like, if you have the faith, like, it literally takes the faith of a mustard seed. It doesn't even matter if you're awake or not. If you have the faith, you can do anything. And I've done so many things in my life that people would deem impossible. And I'm planning on doing more impossible things because I plan on being out of this chair.
And you will be.
But I've done so many things that people will deem not possible. That it will. I can tell you stories for hours.
Yeah.
Did you have you ever written any kind of book, Renee?
I have
You
the
need to write a
workbook.
book. No, I mean, besides, I know the workbook because Kayla has shared that with Frank and I, and we'll talk about that. We'll let people know they can access that workbook that you've created and put together. But man,
But
you
your
have
story,
such a
your story is
story.
amazing. Yeah, but
Yeah,
you know what?
I
It's
mean,
gonna get out.
The world needs to hear
I
this.
That's why perspective shifts here.
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, it's amazing.
I definitely want to write a book eventually, and I think it's going to be called Journey Through Faith and Hope.
Okay.
Like, but so I have the name of the book,
Mhm.
but I need somebody to help me write it. Like, I need a scribe basically to write
Yeah.
my stories as I speak, because it would just be easier for me.
Totally.
So that I'm waiting for that opportunity to come.
Cool.
And mess around
For
with
that
the voice to
opportunity.
text stuff too. You know, with the new AI stuff out there, I'm sure there's some
Yeah.
voice to text stuff that you could use from home and at least get a rough draft going.
Well, hopefully
And
some of
that's
the,
what I use for the ones that I made now is voice to text. But when you have to write out longer stories,
yeah,
it's kind of harder
yeah,
to get all the details down. So you still need somebody to go in and help with those details.
yeah. But you just put that out into the universe. So obviously, like you put everything else out into the universe, that gift will show up in the right moment, in the right time. No, I got a question for you.
And you know,
How old is your daughter?
she'll be 11 in December.
How's she doing?
Oh my God, she's amazing.
Oh, right on.
She is
What's her name, by the way?
amazing. Her name is Destiny.
Destiny. Perfect.
Destiny. So her name is
That should be
actually
the name of your book.
Seriously.
oh, and she actually has a Z in her name, so it's spelled DEZTINY because I wanted it to be different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like uniqueness, but it's Destiny Dream. So like, because before I had her, right after I found out that I was pregnant, I had a dream of her, and I seen her, and basically God, the universe, was showing me like before everything that happened that everything was gonna be okay, and that she was gonna be good. Because I had so many people in that time tell me that she wasn't gonna make it full term, that I should just give up now and like terminate the pregnancy, or that like she was gonna be severely like disabled like me, or or whatever else they made it like said. And I had this dream, and I seen her when she was like 5 years old, and I was like, okay, like she's good, like she is absolutely amazing.
Wow.
And like thriving, and one of the smartest people I know. Like sometimes I'm like, you have my attitude and you're too smart for your own good. Like I'm in trouble. like
Seriously.
she has my persistence in everything, and she's just like so determined to like show the world, and like she loves me to death, and she loves her dad to death, and it's just like amazing to see her thrive, and her like and it's like to see her perspective on having like disabled parents and things like that. And like, because my ex also has a disability, and just to see her still thrive and like want to support us as her parents, and to show up always in that love and in that kindness, and we're a team, and like she'll sit there and tell me like, mommy, it's okay, we're best friends, and like it doesn't matter because I'm gonna live with you forever. I'm like, okay, I don't care, like we're good, but she is definitely like this light in my life that I don't know what I would do without her. And like when I get to be a parent to her, it also helps me heal my child self, because I can see myself in her, and I can give myself what I didn't have.
Yeah.
So it's a duality of things that I'm so grateful for. And I remember like when I first started my journey, one of the first coaches I ended up working with like told me like when you hug your daughter, imagine you're hugging your childhood self.
Yeah.
And,
Powerful.
and it shifted the power for me to heal myself. Because me hugging her, me giving her the love that I didn't have is actually me also loving myself.
Yeah. That's
And see,
powerful.
that's the experience that we take for granted. Most of the time when you say I have to be a parent or I have to be responsible for this child, you're taking for granted the ability to re-love yourself because they are you. She is me. She's a direct reflection of me. And and even on a genetic level. And some of her genetics is still within me, and some of my genetics is still within her because she was the only person close enough to my heart, right? She heard my heart from the inside, and I remind her of that every day. Like we were connected from the inside. You were the only person that got to hear my heart from the inside, you know, and like that's just it's like a powerful shift to have and a powerful bond to have that I don't really understand why most like other parents don't see that perspective sometimes.
Yeah.
Because it's like this beautiful gift that I'm allowed to like experience, that I can experience. But it's also something that I know is so precious and so fragile and can be shifted in a not great way in an instant. And I think that makes me appreciate it even more, you know? Um,
Yeah.
but I want her to be so confident in herself and so secure in herself and just know that she's like amazing and unique and like wonderful in every way and everything that I do to show her that and to empower her that and to show her that no matter what, you know, I have to overcome or we have to overcome together, we're still powerful. Like, oh my God, it's just like amazing.
She's lucky to have you. Really. You're a great mentor.
And I think
Yeah.
that's why
Yeah.
she ultimately chose you. I don't know how. Well, give me your take on this, Renee. What do you think? So I believe that we are a soul, and we come down here. We've got these bodies, these suits, right? That each of us occupy, but we're a soul, and we actually choose to come down here on Earth and have an experience. And it's what we're going through, we may not understand it because we don't remember it, but we chose this, and your daughter chose your ex-husband. You know, that was a choice. She wanted to have this experience. What is your take on that?
I truly believe that because like I said, I seen her when I in my dream when I first like realized that I was pregnant. I had a dream and I had an out of body experience where I went to heaven and I met her.
Oh, sweet.
Right. Um, so so one of the hardest pills for me to swallow when I first like really waking up and starting to realize the power and the authority that God divine gives us here is realizing that I chose my disability, is realizing that I chose this life and this path. Because that's a hard like pill to swallow and responsibility to take onto yourself. Right. So I think that when we come down here, before we come down here, we sit with God, we have a conversation with him, and he says, okay, this is what you can go through. This is what you will go through. This is what it's going to look like. And he shows us what we're going to experience. And we have this view of the possible choices of our life and the possible things that could happen. And then we say, okay, you know, God, Father, whatever you want to call it, like, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to do this for these reasons, for this purpose. or whatever. And then he says, okay, but now in order for you to be able to really like embody this experience and to really learn the way that you want to, I have to put the veil over your eyes, the veil of forgetfulness, the veil of, you know, of not knowing, you know, and he puts the veil over our eyes and we forget and we disconnect from that version of us. And our goal here is to help to remember and to then live out the purpose that we were divinely created for. My purpose is the unconditional love of God. I am the reflection of that love. I am the essence of that love, right? I embody that in everything that I do. That's why I was designed. That's how he created me. But I had to learn to give it to myself first. And I had to learn that having this disability and learning to love it and accept it and empower it and use it as a gift instead of a curse was part of that journey, was part of that discovery, because I have to know people in a way, in an intimate way that nobody else does. I have to rely on people in a way that not many people do. But those connections and those experiences have created the loving and caring and unconditional version of me that I am. Because I don't care what you do. If you learn and you grow, I'm going to forgive you. It doesn't mean that I'm going to allow you to do the same thing again. But I'm going to forgive you and I'm going to hold a new version of you and I'm going to meet you where you are.
Wow.
And that can be with new boundaries, that could be with new, whatever the case may be. But I'm still gonna meet you there.
So this will tie into something you said to us right when we started this, and it started this broadcast with you. But the way that your biological parents made you feel, or the way that like the church, when you would go, make you feel as if there's something you need to pray for, that there's something about you that's broken, that there's something about you that needs to be fixed. Can you touch on that as it relates to what you're saying?
So I had this epiphany and I was in a meditative state. And I was meditating because sometimes I can get very frustrated at my disability, because when I have to go to the bathroom and there's nobody here to help me, because you know the system that I made only helps with one bathroom issue, it doesn't help with both.
Gotcha.
So when I have to go to the bathroom and there's nobody here to help, and I'm like possibly gonna have an accident myself, like it can trigger some very intense like feelings within myself, right? And some very intense emotions that I think anybody could understand if they were going through the same thing. But I was in this like meditative state, and I was like talking to God, and I talked to him just like I talk to everybody else, like I talk to you, and I was asking him this question. And he said to me, you know, Renee, you keep asking for something that's already done. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, it's already done. I already did it. You're just not seeing it. And you're just not appreciating it. And I was like, okay. And I realized, like, I used to have severe pain throughout my whole body because they cut my back open when I was 7 and they cut all my nerves, thinking that it would make me walk. And it didn't. It actually made me worse. And I had severe pain throughout my whole body, and I was in a couple accidents. And I remember deciding that I wasn't going to experience pain anymore. And all my pain has been gone since that day. And what I seen in this vision is that is the beginning of the healing. Like I can't say the exact day that I might get out of this chair and walk, but I know it's already done. And like, I have faith that it's already done. And even if it's not me walking, and just being able to be proud of who I am in this chair and in this reality and in this life, I'm okay with that. Like, it doesn't have to mean physical, like, restoring of my avatar. It can mean just me understanding and being proud of who I am and empowering the support that I need in myself. Because it's not a bad thing to be willing to ask for help. It's not, there's nothing wrong with the fact that I can say, I need help to go to the bathroom. I need help to go to get dressed. There's nothing bad about that until somebody else decided it was bad.
Yeah.
And when I stopped viewing it as bad or good or indifferent, it doesn't affect me as much. Do I still have moments where I am growing and I'm learning in that moment? Yes. Do I still have moments that can test me? Yes. But am I okay? Like, all I do is I remind myself that I'm safe. I'm not a child. I'm not in danger. I'm not getting hurt. Even if I have an accident on myself, I'm not hurt. I might be wet for a little while. It'll get cleaned up. It's just like spilled milk.
Yep.
There's nothing bad about it. It doesn't make me less of a person. You know, I had this complex of, like, when I would have accidents on myself, it would make me less of a woman, not attractive to a partner. But it doesn't matter, because somebody who loves me for who I am, they're going to accept me for that. And that's the part, that's the healing part. That's where the healing comes in. That's where the healing is already done, because I'm comfortable with that now. Like, I'm okay with that. And if you can't accept that part of me, then you don't belong with me. You're not the partner for me. You know, so, or you're not the person that is supposed to be in my life. It doesn't mean that you're good or bad. It just means you're not aligned with me.
Very well said.
Does that make sense?
Very
Absolutely.
well. Wow. It's almost as if you're free in your mind and free from your ego, regardless of the circumstances you're in. And that's what everyone wants. You know, people want to get this thing in order to feel the comfort of freedom. Like, freedom is within, regardless of the condition that comes from it. And you're actually a living proof of this. This is one of the most inspirational conversations I've ever had.
Yeah, truly.
Yeah, I was like, wow. So, yeah.
I have like
Yeah.
this sensation in my
Yeah.
body listening to you speak, Renee.
Yeah, like,
where
I
I'm
feel
just
like, yeah.
oh my God, you're speaking truth.
Like, the hairs are standing up on my neck right now. It's just, it's hearing this story, you know, and you know, before you came in, yeah, before you came on today, I didn't even know who you were,
Uh-huh.
you know, but wow, I am blessed to know you.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to explain it, but so what I always tell people is, when you start to experience truth and you start to understand these concepts, the reason you buy into them, the reason you believe them, the reason you have faith is because of the way they make you feel. You have like this immense knowing about it where there's just something about it where you know this is true. Like,
Yeah.
you know this is truth.
It goes beyond belief.
Yeah, it's like to your bones, to your core. And that's the exact feeling I have in this moment listening to you, Renee, and what you're sharing, which is, this is absolute truth. It's like playing a telephone game with God, you know, and like listening and hearing that direct communication. Like, your story is going to empower so many people out there. And I hope this helps bring you peace and, you know, gratitude in any time of struggle that you have.
Yeah, you definitely helped me and Mike out. I can feel
Absolutely.
it. Yeah, it's wow.
And it's like, this is my purpose. This is what I'm meant to do. So, like, hearing you guys say that, like, my story and my experiences and my perspective has, like, really shifted you. It's so empowering to me, because this is what I'm meant to do, and I haven't fully created the platform to get my message out as much as I've wanted. but I know it's meant to like really shift people and change the world. And that's my intention. Is anybody that I interact with, I want them to be changed for the rest of their life. I want them to be drastically transformed into a better version of themselves just by hearing me speak, just by being present in my energy. And I think that just knowing that my energy and the way I carry myself can change somebody at a core level is like so empowering to me, and it lets me know that I'm on the right path to where I'm supposed to be going. And for that, like, I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
You absolutely are.
Now, for anyone out there that's listening, that's going to be listening to this conversation, how do they get in touch with you to use your services?
Your coaching,
Yeah.
your anything, just if somebody wants to reach out and contact you.
Well, I have a business. It's called Journey Guide Life Coach.
Journey Guide Life Coach.
And I do have a website that is up. I also have my TikTok.
Okay.
Okay.
All of the links to my services are in my LinkTree on my TikTok.
Okay.
So they can book sessions there. My TikTok is Renee J Christian 4. That is like my name on TikTok. So they can follow me there. I do have a Facebook page under my business. I don't really post there much, but it is there. And I do have a YouTube, but I don't really post there as much either right now. But those are the ways they can get in contact with me. I would be happy to like work with anybody. But I really want people that are really dedicated and ready to really shift. Like, it's important to me that like you can make a commitment to yourself, a long-term commitment to yourself to really put in the work and to explore every part of who you think you are and who you want to be, because I'm gonna really push that like accountability and that calling you out of like all your shit, you know.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
I'm gonna because that's my tough love for people, is like I'm gonna show up in love for you and I'm gonna hold you accountable, but I'm also gonna give you that tough love that you need to get out of your own lies.
Yeah.
Stop lying to yourself.
Great message.
Renee, we can't wait to have you back on the show. And we especially can't wait on your journey when you step out that chair and you say, "Yep, I did this." Because I mean, I'm telling you right now, based on the synchronicities and just the manifestations and creations you've had so far in your life and what you've done, there is no doubt in my mind. It's going to be really cool watching you, come walk into a room and sit down with Frank and I.
Yeah. But it seems like you're already floating out of that chair as it is. So,
Yeah.
And I'm not limited by this physical body. So, I don't allow myself to stay limited, there's only big things coming, and I'm ready for whatever that looks like and whatever that is. But my goal is to really just inspire people and to let them know that like no matter what you're going through, no matter what your circumstance looks like, no matter how bad it's been, like you can create something different and you can change it to anything you want it to be. And that there's something out there, whether you want to call it God, universe, whatever you want to call it, that is working everything out for your good. And like empowering that faith in people and that reconnection is so important to me, because I don't think I would be here today without it.
Yeah. Well, Renee, you definitely inspired me. I'm sure I could speak for Mike as well. And, whoever's listening, who's going to listen to this, and we have a pretty big viewership. You're going to change lives with this. And you're a true inspiration. Like I said, I've had plenty of conversations in my life, but this is definitely at the top of the heap.
Yeah.
With conversation with people. And I didn't even preconceive anything coming in. So that's even a greater gift for me.
Exactly.
Because I had no idea who we really, I I knew your name, but I didn't know too much about you. But wow, this was a gift to me.
It really was. And I the same goes for me, Renee. At the end of the day, hearing the what you're sharing, I don't know how to better say it than it
Yeah.
is. It is truth.
Yeah.
You are sharing truth, and nobody can deny truth. And
Yeah.
when you hear it, you feel it, you know it, and your daughter's very lucky to have you.
Yeah.
You're quite the role model. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Like, she's gonna be telling. She's gonna have some great stories to share with others growing up.
Yeah, she probably has a tough time trying to complain around you, doesn't she?
Yeah.
It's a yeah. Like, I
We're
can't
working
complain
on
to my
that
mom.
because we're shifting that, but she's working through it, and like
Yeah.
you know, I know she's gonna get there, and you know, we go through that teenagers where that's like you know you get, but she's getting there, and you know, I'm trying to teach her, you know, and that's all I can do. But I'm grateful for her too, and she's such an amazing gift to me as well. And I'm just so empowered by everything, and grateful for every step that I've taken in my life and how far I've come. And being here with you today gets to give me the chance to reflect on that and to take note of that. And I'm just like really grateful for that, and to be able to look and see that, you know, I've done the work and I've grown so much, and I'm just really proud of that and really grateful for that opportunity. And thank you guys for having me on, not knowing much about me, and you know, not knowing
it was an
anything.
honor.
It was a delight. Yeah. And give Destiny a hug for us.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
I definitely will.
Thank you again, seriously, Renee.
Yeah.
We will absolutely have you back on the show. We've got to hear some more synchronicities, some more stories. Next time, we'll also have you share some of your success stories that you've had with your clients.
Awesome, cool. I love that. And I'll definitely come back anytime.
You have a great rest of your week.
All right. Much love.
Bye.
All right. Peace out.